Hi there folks, and welcome to this episode of Michael's 3D World. In previous videos you might have I've featured this Ender. This is a plain old Ender. It's about 2 years old. You can see there's some mods been done to it. We have a pet fang type cooler with Noctua, dual Noctua 40x20 fans. We've got a 90 Noctua 90 by I can't remember if it's 10 or 15 fan here on the power supply. It has had, I've got a roller on here to guide the filament. I've got a new style roller I've put on here. And this has got a cover that has been printed to protect the circuit board. We're going to do some more stuff to it. I had a hot end failure where the plastic got out everywhere. Let me bring you in close and show you what we got and what we're going to do with it. As you can hear, there's an Ender 3 Pro in the background that hasn't been silenced with a silent board yet, but that's coming. It doesn't know it, but it's got it coming. So what we're going to do, we've got a few things we're going to cover here. We've got a Swiss all metal hot end with all new components here. The links for anything I'll have in this video that I used in this video will be below, whether it's Amazon, Micro Swiss. It'll take you directly to the objects that I used in this video. This, I have my Raspberry Pi inside this Epic case. I call it Epic E-Pi-C. I don't know. Anyway, Raspberry Pi case with fan. I'm going to get rid of that because I'm going to put the Raspberry Pi in here, as you may have seen in one of my other videos, and that's all going to go behind here and replace this case that's already covering this. That way everything's in one spot. And I'm also going to tap this power supply by using this buck converter and some wiring, leftover wiring from my Noctua fans, and a little buck converter case, so we can put all the power to the machine through one plug-in. So when this is plugged in here, power supply is plugged in, you flip it on, it turns on my Raspberry Pi and the machine itself, and we're ready to rock and roll. One plug is consumed then, versus using, I had this hooked up to it, you know, power supply for the Raspberry Pi. A lot of extra cords, a lot of extra BS around, so we're getting rid of that. But let me show you what happened here. The reason I'm going the Micro Swiss all metal hot end is this isn't silicone around here. That's melted plastic. Here's the old boot. It's been around the block a few times. It's a little tough around the edges. So with the new Micro Swiss stuff, we're gonna get all brand new stuff on this hot end and make it better. And then we'll just be able to plug this bad boy right back in place. The cool part about this Micro Swiss, it's a direct plug and play. You know, it fits CR10, CR10 SS, CR10 S4, just S, CR10 Mini. Anyway, let me show you here real quick. You can pause and read the rest of them if you want. That's what it all fits. It's a direct replacement, which is a beautiful thing. But first, now I haven't taken away any of the power yet, because I've got to power this thing on, because I've got to heat this end up to get this thing disassembled, to get my thermistor out, and just to get it disassembled in general, because this thing's a hot melted mess that has now solidified. So now I've got to reheat it to get it apart. So let's work on that first. I'm going to put the all metal hot end on first, and we'll go through that in a minute, step by step, once I get this all apart and I'm ready to start putting it together. So let's heat it up, and I'm gonna put you in time lapse while I try to take this apart, because I'm gonna heat it up, get some paper towels, and hold on to it with pliers and see if I can just get this all apart. Because primarily I'm not worried about this piece. I'm worried about saving my wires and my thermistor here. So that's the big win if I can save that. Alright, I'm going to see if I can get you in here close to show you what I did. We've got the new thermistor, or the old thermistor, and everything installed into the hot end here. And I haven't tightened this down, and I haven't tightened this top piece here down, and I haven't tightened the nozzle in yet. I just got them in there finger tight right now. I did tighten that screw on the side down to hold the thermistor in place. So what's left to do now, so what I want to do now is I want to heat this hot end up, and I want to get it hot without touching anything here. Because I want to tighten both of these down with it hot, because that's when it's fully expanded, and then we can tighten it down. When it cools off, it'll still be tight. If you tighten it down cold and you heat it up, things get loose again. So we're going to go ahead and take this up to 230 degrees. We're going to let that heat up. And don't let this touch any of your hot end. And we're going to watch the main temperature, because it can run away from you when you don't have the cooling fan on it. So we're going to let that warm up. And we've got our little 7mm wrench here that fits this piece, and it'll fit the nozzle on here. And we can tighten everything down. And I've got my pair of pliers so I can hold on to this block carefully so I don't do any damage to it. I can see it's getting hot. We're at 155 now. 171, 174. And I have tightened down the heating element. The 2 set screws in the back here are socket head cap screws. Those have been tightened down. We're at 205 now. Now that everything's tightened up, try not to let that touch anything. And we're gonna let her cool down. We'll watch it come down. And while this is running, you can have this little fan. The little fan you got on here is running, so you can help it cool down if you want, just by holding it in front of the fan. Alrighty, now that we have this hot end all tightened up, it's time to put it up in place. And this is kind of cumbersome with all these extra stuff attached, but you start your little set screw in here, and then you can slide this up into place until it bottoms out. And with the little wrench that's provided, we can tighten this up. I'm just making sure I've got it good and square, but we'll just give it a little tightening there. Now what I'm going to do is, one more time, I want to heat it up. I'll find my power switch. So we're going to take it back up to 2. I normally print around 210 with my PLA, but I do 245. So we're going to take it up to 240 this time when I'm using ABS. And every now and then I might put an enclosure around this and do ABS. So now we're going to watch it come up to temp. And once it's up to temp, I'm going to do some final tightening on these screws. And these hot end screws here that hold the heating element in place. Those seem to be good and tight. Once it's cooled back down, we can put our little silicone boot back on. And then I'm going to put my pet fang back in place. Well, I'm going to go ahead and put the extruder tube in, or the Bowden tube in, not extruder tube. And it doesn't push down very far, because now it just goes barely inside the hot end. And once you have that in place, put your little clip in. Once that's in, Bowden tube's in, we're ready to put this back in place, or whichever cover housing you have on your machine. The next thing we're going to do is go after putting the Raspberry Pi under here, and we're going to tap into the power here to get power to the Raspberry Pi. And we're going to make that nice, neat conversion. So first thing we're going to do is power it off and pull your power cord out. And I'm going to go ahead and take this loose here. And this is bolted together here and here. And since we're converting this back, we'll use these screws to put this back together. Now that this is reassembled, you can see how this is going to fit. That's going to go there like that. Your Raspberry Pi with all your connections are going to hang out right here. So we'll set this aside for a minute, and we'll go ahead and get this power supply off. Unplug your bed heater. We'll slide this back out of the way as we work on this piece. Let's go ahead and separate this part by removing these 2 screws. so we can gain access to this area right here. Now, if you're familiar with this, you wouldn't have to take this off, but I'm going to take this off just because I like to double check to make sure I'm picking up the right terminals for positive and negative. Now, as we can see right here, we've got a positive, 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 negative, negative, negative. These two are hooked up to your bed. I'm going to pick up two more here, a positive and a negative. I'm going to come off of there with the wire to go into my Raspberry Pi. So we're going to get a couple of terminals, get some wires hooked up to them so I can put that out the bottom, and then I can put this back together. Okay, the next task at hand is we're going to make a little wiring harness. This is these are leftover wires out of a Noctua fan. I found this to be very helpful and useful for doing this conversion. So this is just a little life hack here. I'm going to go ahead and cut this female end off, save the male end. That male end will clip right onto your Raspberry Pi board. And we're going to go ahead and pull these wires out here. And we're not going to use the red wire. So the red wire we can clip away. Because we need the black and the yellow in the space there are right there. So we're going to do that, and then on this other end we're going to use just the wiring off of this. We don't need any of the ends. We're just going to take advantage of the wire that's inside. So we're going to clip that off, and we could save this because we might cover some of the wires up here before we're all said and done. And here again, I'm just saving the black and yellow because that's all we need to keep the color coordination matched up. After that, we're going to strip the ends, and we're going to crimp us a couple of eyelets on here so we can tap into the power supply. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, solder these, put a heat shrink tube on it, and we'll be back in just a minute because we're going to hook a buck converter up to this. I'm going to show you how to dial in the buck converter, which is this guy right here. We're going to solder it on, and we're going to make sure we're down to 5 volts that the Raspberry Pi needs, and then we'll stick it in a little case and we'll be done. All right, it's time to dial in the buck converter. So we've got everything put back together on the power supply here and tightened down. We plugged it back in. I'm going to power it up. Should see the buck converter light up just like that. It means we got power to it. And just remember to follow your positive and your negative to your negative so you don't screw things up. And I'm touching it right here, and you see this thing is currently letting 22.1 volts through. So I'm going to rotate this screw counterclockwise and bring it down to 5 volts. And sometimes this is handier with 2 people, but I'm able to get it done with just myself. All right, we're taking it on down. 5 to 5.1 seems to work just fine. Let's see here, we're taking it on down. Oops, that's 4. Right there, we got 5.1 volts running through here. Everything's good. Then we can go ahead and power it back off. And it'll take a little bit for that excess power to bleed off of that. The next thing I'm going to do is we're going to take my other tower apart that I had put together. Now, in order to be able to use this, these two little prongs that normally make it so you can only plug things in one way get in the way here. If you have the regular connectors that you can put on here, by all means do it. I'm going to go ahead and cut these excess pieces off. That'll allow me to plug it in. And here again, we've got your first 2 on the end here are positive, and the one next to it is a negative. And you're using the outside row here. So this is a 40-pin connector. So you got a black going in here, which is like I've used positive, wired it up for positive. And we should be able to power that back on. We'll see the butt converter come on. We'll see that kick on. And since I have a card in here that's already etched, you'll see it boot up. And then what I like to do is we'll flip this over, and I'm just going to double check that everything is still good power wise with my positive and my negative. And as you can see here, I've got my 5.1. So we're good. Everything's successful. Now we can unplug this, and we're going to get busy installing it into our case. And as you'll see here, this pie fits everything. Everything I'm using here will be in the links below, so don't be afraid to follow the links, and you'll be able to download or buy or do everything with this exact same products that I'm using here, or the exact same files that I used to create all this stuff. What I can't do for you is make it print out as perfectly as I've got these printed off. That's something you got to learn yourself. That's all there is to it. So this goes in here. I'm going to grab a couple screws out of my screw kit. I've got a stainless flathead screw kit, and you can put 4 screws right in here and fasten that thing down firmly and securely. Now I'm just using some little M3 by 8mm long flathead screws. It's just a perfect size. They fit the flatheads that are designed in here, the countersinks that are designed into this part. And they just bite in and screw to the board. And it just self-cuts some threads right into the board, right through the screw holes. Works perfect. I mean, you can't ask for anything any better than that. They come out just barely above flush on the other side. You got maximum contact there. So, and some people might be saying you need to put a nut on the other side of that. It's like, no, I don't. It's not going anywhere. It's like, where's this? How much vibration and how much shaking around is this going to be subject to? Which is virtually none. And here again, the link to the description for the bolt kit. I've got a flathead and a socket head kit that I bought off Amazon. The links below will be for both of them below. I've gone to these kits over and over and over again. It's well worth it. We're going to go ahead and put our top on our butt converter and close that off. Doesn't that make a nice, neat, clean assembly? Once that's securely back in place, we can go ahead and hook our bed heating wires back up, and then we're going to route our new power supply wires right under here, just like that. And as you can see, this will be able to fit right under here with ease, along with the other wires for the panel. And this can just rest right in here. We're going to go ahead and plug this back in. And now we're going to go ahead and plug we're plugged in the E3 here. So we'll go ahead and plug that back in. And we'll use the existing screws that we had before. Well, let's fire it up and see if she comes to life. Boom, shakalaka. There it is, ready to rock and roll. Now I can plug my camera back into here, and I can plug my light accessory in here. I'm going to show you guys what I'm going to do here. And I should have done it before I bolted the power supply on, but that's okay. I've got this USB extension. It's about 3 foot long, male to female, that I can plug in here. But what I want to do is I want to route this thing back behind my power supply. And you guys are probably asking yourself right now, why did you put that USB extension on there? Well, I'm going to show you. These are some cute little Yitee lights that you can plug right in here. And as you can see, they're dimmable. Let me turn my lights off. Now, as you can see, it's pretty much pitch black in my basement. You can turn it off. As you can see nothing right now through the camera. I'll turn it on, and these are dimmable. Pretty cool. But at least it provides some light. Whoops, come on. It provides some light for you to be able to, and as you can see, they get pretty bright. Otherwise, it's pretty much, you tap it again, it should go off. But that's quite a bit of light. Anyway, that's just a neat little trick. My son turned me on to these little lights. They work really good. But you can use that USB to power any light you want. But now we're up fully functional with our all our new components. Now the one thing I haven't done is leveled the bed. So we're going to go ahead and auto home it. And you guys are probably wondering, hey, this Ender 3 is really, really quiet. Well, that's because I put a 4.2.7 silent board on this printer, and it has been dead silent ever since. It's probably one of my quietest printers, as a matter of fact. It's quieter than my Ender 3 V2, which came with a silent board. And this used to be the noisiest printer, similar to what you hear behind me. And that bad boy over there, the Ender 3 Pro, is going to get a silent board as well, because when I have 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 printers going down here, there could be a lot of whining going on, and I don't want that. All right, we got her homed. And we'll go ahead and disable the steppers so we can move it. And we'll re-level the bed. Okay, once I've got it leveled cold, I'm going to go ahead and heat it up. So we're going to take the nozzle up to 210. That's usually where I print at with this printer. Now there is some notes I saw on the new Micro Swiss that you might have to run it a tad hotter than you normally had been in the past, and we'll discover that. I'll run this up to bed temp of 60 is what I've been running. That all feels pretty good. Go ahead and purge some red through this tip. Everything looks pretty good. All right, let's put it in its home and let's do a print. All right, folks, that's all the mods for the Ender 3. We did a couple of cool things here. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something from it. I tell you what, just by putting all this together and having this little housing here, it just neatened things up. You know, adding this little roller. We did a few things here, but man, it turned out well, and I love how it works now. So hope you guys found this video helpful. I've done a lot of mods to this Ender 3, but I think I'm done now. That hot end, between this Raspberry Pi housing here and the hot end, all metal hot end, man, I just love how this thing works now. It is slick, slick, slick. So I highly encourage this Micro Swiss. I'm not sponsored by anybody in this video, period, or any of these products in this video, period, but you can follow all the links in my description below, and you can do all the same mods I've done here and watch my videos that I've got links in the description below to show you the mods that weren't in this particular video. And you guys could have a really sweet working machine. These things look like a box, a framework, but how they function is great. This thing is so quiet now. This used to be my noisiest machine in the shop here because I didn't have a silent board on it, but I put a silent board in this one. In an upcoming video, you'll have to check this guy out. This is an Ender 3 Pro with lots of mods on it too. And I'll share with you, there is an unboxing video out there already on this one. Check it out. But we did a lot of mods on this one. We'll do that in some upcoming videos. But for now, we're focused on this guy and how it turned out. You guys get out there and do something fun, do something exciting. Share your, this is a kind of a neat hobby. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that have 3D printers. Find somebody else that you know that has a 3D printer. You guys have something in common. You can share knowledge and share progress on your projects and print something exciting. This is Michael telling you, get out there and have a good time, folks. I'll see you on the next video. I'm out.